The shimmering, multifaceted brilliance of the hope for the future diamond has always been far more than just a breathtaking piece of jewelry. Throughout its turbulent history, it has served as a physical manifestation of immense power, enduring legacy, and the intricate web of fractured romances that define the Los Angeles fashion scene. When Bill Spencer proudly and smugly acquired this legendary gemstone, he did not merely secure a beautiful accessory for the upcoming Logan fashion show. Bill secured a literal weapon of mass destruction aimed directly at the heart of Forrester Creations. The shocking revelation that Bill intends to use this priceless, historically charged diamond as the breathtaking centerpiece for Logan's highly anticipated surprise fashion debut has sent absolute shockwaves through the entire industry. For Bill, this is the ultimate masterstroke, a calculated maneuver designed to humiliate Ridge Forrester and prove that the newly formed Logan fashion house is not just a minor competitor, but an apex predator ready to devour the Forrester legacy. Ridge Forrester, a man whose entire identity and ego are inextricably linked to the preservation and glorification of his father Eric Forrester's legacy, views this audacious move as an unforgivable act of war. The very idea that the hope for the future diamond, a gem that was fundamentally tied to a Forrester Creations brand, would be paraded down a rival Logan runway is a profound, deeply personal insult. When the news finally reaches the pristine, glass-walled executive offices of Forrester Creations, the initial panic caused by Dottie Bright's bombshell announcement of the ASAP Logan show morphs into a cold, calculated, and terrifying rage. Ridge and his fiercely protective daughter, Steffi Forrester Finnegan, realize that they cannot simply fight this battle with superior fabrics, better stitching, or creative design. They decide to strike back with the most devastating arsenal at their disposal, choosing to launch a ruthless, unyielding legal assault designed to rip the diamond from Bill Spencer's grasp. Ridge immediately mobilizes the formidable Forrester legal team, instructing his attorneys to dig into the deepest, dustest archives of the company's contractual history. His argument is meticulously built on the complex and often muddy waters of past agreements, specifically targeting the old contract clauses involving Wyatt Spencer and Hope Logan. Dedicated fans will remember the convoluted, emotional history of this magnificent blue diamond. Wyatt Spencer, who originally owned the gem, gifted it to Hope during their brief, whirlwind marriage. When that marriage inevitably dissolved, the true ownership of the diamond became a massive gray area, bouncing back and forth between sentimental value and corporate asset. Ridge seizes upon this historical ambiguity with the precision of a surgeon, claiming that because the diamond was utilized and branded under the Hope for the future umbrella while Hope was an exclusive employee of Forrester Creations, the gem is intrinsically tied to the company's intellectual property. Ridge vehemently asserts that Wyatt had absolutely no legal right to hand the diamond over to Bill for a rival company's commercial use. He declares the gemstone to be stolen corporate property, arguing that the original contracts explicitly protect any assets associated with the Hope for the Future line. This legal maneuvering is a desperate, aggressive attempt by Ridge to assert his dominance and ensure that Eric Forrester's upcoming haute couture return remains the undisputed center of the fashion universe. However, Ridge's contractual maneuvering is merely the opening salvo in this rapidly escalating corporate warfare. Steffi Forrester Finnegan, whose blood is already boiling at a fever pitch due to Hope's shocking defection to the rival fashion house, decides to take these legal threats to an entirely new, nuclear level. Steffi is not merely satisfied with reclaiming the gemstone. She wants to completely obliterate the Logan fashion show before a single model sets foot on the runway. Driven by a potent mixture of personal betrayal, lingering resentment, and a fierce territorial instinct, Steffi threatens to sue Katie Logan, Bill Spencer, and the entire Logan enterprise for egregious copyright infringement if they even dare to display the diamond. Steffi forcefully argues that the diamond's specific cut, its historical association, and its branding are exclusively Forrester intellectual property. She makes it terrifyingly clear to the Logan camp that if that blue diamond catches even a single beam of light on their stage, she will drown them in injunctions and lawsuits that will bankrupt their new venture. Steffi's wrath is palpable, transforming her from a co-CEO into a vengeful warrior determined to punish Hope for her perceived disloyalty. This aggressive, dual-pronged legal strategy yields immediate and devastating results for the Logan camp. The much-anticipated Surprise ASAP fashion show, which was meticulously designed to blindside Forrester Creations and steal the international spotlight, is abruptly forced to hit the brakes. The physical delivery of thick, intimidating cease and desist letters and emergency court injunctions throws the Logan offices into absolute chaos. The triumphant, smug smiles that previously adorned the faces of Katie Logan and Bill Spencer are quickly replaced by expressions of deep frustration and roaring anger. The delay is a catastrophic blow to their momentum. They had successfully hijacked the international press corps brought to Los Angeles by Forrester, but now, instead of presenting a revolutionary new collection, they are forced to huddle with their own attorneys, desperately trying to entangle the legal web Ridge and Steffi have spun around them. At the very center of this agonizing delay is Hope Logan Spencer, who finds herself caught in a psychological and emotional hurricane. Hope took the monumental, terrifying risk of leaving Forrester Creations to step out of Steffi's shadow and forge her own destiny at Logan. Now her highly anticipated debut as a lead designer is being actively sabotaged by the very family she left behind. The guilt and anxiety weighing on Hope are absolutely crushing. She is acutely aware that her presence at Logan, combined with the controversial use of the diamond, has triggered this apocalyptic response from Ridge and Steffi. Hope watches in horror as Deke Sharp, who was thrilled to be working with her again, is forced to halt his creative process while the lawyers battle it out. The dream of a triumphant, independent launch is rapidly transforming into a bitter, ugly courtroom drama, leaving Hope to wonder if she has made a catastrophic mistake. Yet, while Ridge and Steffi may have succeeded in temporarily stalling the Logan fashion show, their heavy-handed tactics trigger an unexpected and severe consequence. The fashion world is a highly perceptive, incredibly vocal community, and the international press corps, hungry for a scandalous story, immediately pivots from covering Eric's upcoming show to dissecting this vicious legal battle. The media narrative quickly and aggressively turns against Ridge Forrester. Instead of being viewed as a righteous defender of his family's legacy, Ridge is widely painted by industry pundits and fashion critics as a monopolistic, overbearing corporate bully. Editorials, fashion blogs, and social media influencers begin to slam Forrester Creations for using its immense wealth and legal muscle to crush a new, emerging competitor rather than beating them on the runway. The optics of a massive, established fashion empire suing to stop a smaller house from displaying a piece of jewelry are disastrous, making Ridge look desperate, vindictive, and terrified of the competition. This severe backlash creates a massive public relations nightmare for Forrester Creations. The very legacy that Ridge was so desperate to protect is now being deeply tarnished by his own authoritarian actions. Daphne Rose Walton and the Forrester PR team find themselves scrambling to control the narrative, but the damage is already being done. The fashion world loves an underdog, and ironically, Ridge's aggressive legal assault has inadvertently positioned Katie, Bill, and Hope as the sympathetic victims of corporate tyranny. The pundits argue that if Eric Forrester's new haute couture collection is truly as magnificent as promised, Forrester Creations should not need to resort to courtroom bullying to maintain its dominance. This wave of industry criticism infuriates Ridge, who feels utterly misunderstood and unjustly persecuted. But it also forces him to confront the harsh reality that his actions are alienating the very audience he needs to impress. The criticism cuts deep, piercing his massive ego and causing immense tension within the walls of Forrester Creations. Meanwhile, Steffi remains unrepentant, viewing the media backlash as a necessary casualty in the war to protect their family name. She refuses to back down, insisting that Logan must be taught a lesson about stealing Forrester property and Forrester talent. The stark contrast between Ridge's growing anxiety over the bad press and Steffi's relentless, vengeful drive highlights the deepening cracks within their own leadership dynamic. Ultimately, this explosive dispute over the hope for the future diamond is far more than a simple legal battle over a gemstone. It is the definitive, irreversible spark that completely incinerates the fragile, fake piece that has barely held the two fashion houses together over the past few months. For a long time, there has been a superficial veneer of civility, a delicate pretense that Forrester Creations and the Spencer-Logan alliance could peacefully coexist in the same city. But the Diamond War has shattered that illusion permanently, burning the bridge to ashes. The gloves are entirely off, and the masks have been discarded. Reg and Staffy have proven that they will use every dirty, ruthless tactic in the corporate playbook to destroy Logan, while Bill and Katie are equally determined to weather the storm and strike back with absolute vengeance. The battle lines are no longer drawn with chalk, they are carved in stone. The fallout from this legal warfare will undoubtedly reshape the landscape of Los Angeles fashion for years to come, as the lawyers prepare for a brutal, drawn-out showdown over old contracts and copyright claims. The personal relationships between the Forresters, the Logans, and the Spencers are being stretched far past their breaking points. Will Ridge's overbearing tactics permanently cost him the respect of the fashion world, or will his massive gamble pay off by permanently crippling Logan's launch? Will Hope find the inner strength to stand tall amidst the legal chaos, or will the immense pressure of this diamond war crush her creative spirit? One thing is absolutely certain. The battle for supremacy is no longer just about who has the best designs. It is a war of attrition, power, and survival, and the hope for the future diamond sits at the very center of the inferno. The crashing waves outside R.J. Forrester's newly acquired beach house provided the perfect, chaotic symphony for the undeniable tempest brewing indoors. For weeks, R.J. and Melissa Dillon had been dancing around an invisible, magnetic pull, a gravitational force born from shared heartbreak and mutual understanding. When the dam finally broke, it was not merely a physical surrender, but a profound emotional collision. R.J., desperately seeking to reclaim his sense of agency after watching Electra Forrester walk back into the arms of Will Spencer, found an unexpected sanctuary in Melissa. The young assistant, who had silently harbored her own crushing disappointment over Will's reunion with Electra, allowed herself to be entirely consumed by the intoxicating warmth of R.J.'s undivided attention. Their passionate encounters by the sea became a secret world, a hidden paradise where the complicated realities of their daily lives could not reach them. However, this beautiful, reckless indulgence was built on a foundation of dangerous deception, setting the stage for a catastrophic fallout that would soon echo through the hallowed halls of Forrester Creations. Stepping out of the secluded bliss of the beach house and back into the harsh, unforgiving fluorescent lights of the Forrester Creations design offices was an agonizing daily ritual for Melissa Dillon. As Electra Forrester's dedicated assistant, Melissa was tasked with managing schedules, organizing the jewelry line, and being a constant, supportive presence for the woman whose former boyfriend she was now secretly taking to bed. The psychological torment of this duality was tearing Melissa apart from the inside out. She was inherently a people pleaser, a young woman who desperately wanted to do a good job and maintain the fragile peace she had recently rebuilt with Electra. Yet, every time she handed Electra a file, every time she offered a warm, encouraging smile, Melissa felt the heavy, suffocating weight of her own hypocrisy. She was living a double life, terrified that a misplaced text message, a lingering scent of R.J.'s cologne, or a momentary slip of the tongue would shatter the illusion she was fighting so desperately to maintain. Electra Forrester, meanwhile, was navigating her own complex emotional landscape, completely oblivious to the romantic storm gathering right beneath her nose. Having finally reunited with Will Spencer, Electra felt a renewed sense of confidence and stability. She was pouring her heart and soul into the Forrester jewelry line, determined to prove her worth and solidify her place within the family dynasty. She viewed Melissa not just as an assistant, but as a trusted confidant, someone who had seemingly accepted her reunion with Will and moved past their previous friction. Electra believed that the dust had finally settled on their dramatic love square, trusting that RJ was focusing on his work and Melissa was dedicated to her career. This blind trust, however, made Electra incredibly vulnerable to the slightest shift in the atmosphere. When the atmosphere in the office began to change, Electra's sharp intuition kicked in, but the conclusions she drew from her observations would prove to be disastrously inaccurate. The catalyst for this impending disaster was not actually the beach house romance, but a massive corporate secret that was slowly eating Will Spencer alive. Katie Logan had sworn Will to absolute secrecy regarding Hope Logan Spencer's shocking defection to the newly revived Logan fashion house. Will, torn between his deep, abiding love for Electra and his inherent loyalty to the Spencer family empire, was forced to carry this monumental lie every single day. The knowledge that his own family was actively plotting to blindside and humiliate Forrester Creations weighed on Will like a physical burden. He knew that the moment Electra discovered the truth about Hope's secret contract, she would view his silence as an unforgivable betrayal. This internal agony manifested in Will's behavior. He became jumpy, evasive, and prone to taking hushed, panicked phone calls in the corridors. He avoided making direct eye contact with Electra, terrified that she would be able to read the guilt written plainly across his face. By a cruel twist of fate, Will's corporate guilt perfectly mirrored the romantic guilt that was currently consuming Melissa Dillon. Both Will and Melissa were walking around the Forrester Creations offices like tightly wound springs, jumping at shadows and speaking in nervous, guarded tones. They were both hiding massive, life-altering secrets from the exact same person, Electra Forrester. Because they were both terrified of being exposed, Will and Melissa inadvertently found themselves sharing a strange, unspoken camaraderie of anxiety. They would exchange nervous glances when Electra entered the room, both of them silently praying that she had not discovered their respective lies. They would quickly change the subject or scatter when Electra approached, their shared panic creating a palpable aura of suspicion that hovered around them like a dark cloud. It was a perfect storm of miscommunication and overlapping deception, and Electra was standing right in the center of it, watching the strange behavior of the two people she trusted most. Electra's intuition, normally a reliable compass, began to misfire spectacularly under the weight of this bizarre environmental tension. She noticed the hushed conversations that abruptly ended the moment she walked into the design office. She saw the way Will would suddenly pull his hand away from his phone, or the way Melissa would blush deeply and stutter when asked a simple question about her weekend. Electra observed the shared, panicked looks between her boyfriend and her assistant, and her mind began to race, desperately trying to connect the dots. Driven by the lingering insecurities of their past love triangle and the sheer intensity of the secretive behavior she was witnessing, Electra arrived at the most devastating, heartbreaking conclusion possible. She believed, with absolute certainty, that Will Spencer and Melissa Dillon were having a passionate, illicit affair right behind her back. The profound irony of this disastrous misunderstanding was nothing short of Shakespearean. Melissa was indeed having a passionate, secret affair, but it was with RJ Forrester, not Will. Will was indeed hiding a massive, relationship-destroying secret, but it was a corporate betrayal, not a romantic one. Yet, in Electra's heartbroken mind, the narrative was clear and undeniable. The pain of this perceived double betrayal was agonizing. She felt entirely foolish for trusting Will again, believing that his heartfelt declarations of love at the bikini bar had been nothing more than a cruel manipulation. Simultaneously, she felt a deep, piercing anger toward Melissa, the assistant she had welcomed back into her good graces, only to be stabbed in the back. The sheer isolation Electra felt within the walls of her own family's company was suffocating. She was surrounded by people, yet she felt entirely alone, drowning in a sea of paranoia, heartbreak, and overwhelming suspicion. It was in this exact moment of profound vulnerability and emotional devastation that a predator emerged from the shadows. Remy Price, a master manipulator with a dark history of deepfakes and deception, had been lurking around the periphery of Forrester Creations, desperately searching for a way to win back the affections of Deke Sharp. Remy was a keen observer of human behavior, and he immediately spotted the deep, jagged cracks forming in Electra's emotional armor. He saw the tears she furiously wiped away in the hallways. He noticed the cold, icy glare she directed at Will and Melissa. Remy realized that Electra's paranoia was a powerful weapon, and he knew exactly how to wield it to serve his own sinister agenda. If he could position himself as Electra's savior, her only true ally in a building full of traitors, he could gain unprecedented access to the inner workings of the Forrester family, which he could then use as leverage to force Deke Sharp back into his life. Remy executed his manipulative trap with chilling precision. He approached Electra with a soft, sympathetic demeanor, offering a shoulder to cry on and a listening ear that demanded nothing in return. He validated her wildest suspicions, subtly feeding her paranoia with carefully crafted insinuations and half-truths. When Electra voiced her fears about Will and Melissa, Remy did not offer a rational alternative. Instead, he nodded gravely, confirming her worst nightmares and positioning himself as the only person who truly understood her pain. Driven by sheer desperation and the blinding agony of her perceived betrayal, Electra fell right into Remy's waiting arms. She allowed herself to be comforted by a man whose true motives were entirely self-serving, entirely unaware that she was being used as a pawn in a much larger, much darker game of emotional chess. Remy's intervention only served to accelerate the impending explosion, ensuring that when the truth finally came out, the collateral damage would be absolute. The inevitable moment of revelation arrived not with a whisper, but with a deafening, catastrophic roar that shook the very foundations of the younger Forrester generation. The fragile house of cards collapsed when the truth about RJ and Melissa's passionate beach house romance was finally dragged into the unforgiving light of day. The exposure was brutal, swift, and entirely undeniable, leaving no room for excuses or misinterpretations. When Electra discovered that her assistant had been secretly sleeping with her ex-boyfriend, RJ, the shock was paralyzing, but the revelation did not stop there. In the chaotic, screaming aftermath of the discovery, the tangled web of secrets completely unraveled, exposing Will's desperate attempts to hide the Logan corporate defection.